When we look around at the dizzying array of living organisms on Earth, we notice the variety of forms, shapes, colors, and sizes. But as we've been discussing, when we get to the level of macromolecules in biochemistry, organisms are more similar than they are different. One trait that all cellular life shares is the need to store and use energy. This concept is essential to understanding biological systems. Even at rest, you are burning many calories simply due to the fundamental processes of life, such as transporting materials from one side of a cell membrane to the other, synthesizing new proteins, replicating DNA, transporting signaling molecules such as hormones, and maintaining the electrochemical gradients that allow neurons to function. We can classify organisms by how they obtain their energy and carbon. Energy is, of course, necessary to maintain cellular processes, and you'll recall that carbon is an integral component of all organic molecules. Organisms that obtain their carbon from inorganic sources are called autotrophs. The majority of these are what we refer to as photoautotrophs, meaning that they obtain their energy from light and their carbon from atmospheric or dissolved carbon dioxide. In other words, photoautotrophs perform photosynthesis, in which light energy is converted to chemical energy through a series of reactions. The energy that is converted into chemical energy can be stored and later broken down to produce ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, which is the major energy molecule of life. The simplified reaction for photosynthesis looks like this. Water and carbon dioxide react to form organic molecules such as glucose and release oxygen as a byproduct. Light energy is required for this endergonic catabolic process. The actual process is far more complex than this equation suggests, but this is a good way to summarize it. Photoautotrophs include plants, from tiny mosses to giant trees such as redwoods and sequoia. Photoautotrophs also include algae, including multicellular algae, the seaweeds, and unicellular algae, which include diatoms, dinoflagellates, and many other types. Some bacteria also photosynthesize, most notably the cyanobacteria. In fact, cyanobacteria originated early in Earth's history and are the first organisms known to produce oxygen. Current estimates are that cyanobacteria evolved approximately 3.4 billion years ago and have been producing oxygen ever since. In fact, Earth's early atmosphere had very little oxygen. The oxygen in the atmosphere that we breathe comes from living organisms. The ability to photosynthesize was acquired by eukaryotes via a process called endosymbiosis, in which a eukaryotic cell engulfed a cyanobacterium. And over time, it became an integral part of the cell. We now call these endosymbiotic cyanobacteria chloroplasts. Chloroplasts allow photoautotrophs to capture carbon dioxide and fix it in the form of organic molecules. Many organisms are, of course, unable to photosynthesize. They derive their carbon and usually their energy as well from organic molecules that were originally produced by a photoautotroph, such as a plant or cyanobacterium. Organisms that obtain carbon from organic molecules are referred to as chemoheterotrophs. They use the energy stored in the chemical bonds of organic molecules, such as glucose, to produce ATP, which is then used to power most cellular work. Cellular respiration is the process of breaking down biological molecules to produce ATP. We can simplify this process, at least for aerobic respiration, with the following reaction. Glucose, or another organic molecule, and oxygen react to form carbon dioxide and water. During this catabolic exergonic process, energy is released and used to produce adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, which cells need in order to accomplish cellular work. So keep in mind that even the photoautotrophs we discussed earlier are still performing cellular respiration. In eukaryotes, respiration takes place partially in the cytoplasm and partially in the mitochondria, where the bulk of ATP is produced. And hey, guess what? Mitochondria also originated from bacteria. In fact, mitochondria were acquired first, once again, through endosymbiosis. We know from sequencing mitochondrial DNA that the ancestors of mitochondria were related to alpha proteobacteria. The ancestors of eukaryotes engulfed one or more of these bacteria, and over many generations they eventually gave rise to the mitochondria. Just think about that. You've got what are really kind of bacteria living inside all of your human cells and giving you the ability to turn food molecules into the energy that you need to sustain life. Okay, so these two processes, photosynthesis and cellular respiration, are related and complementary. This figure summarizes the relationship between the two using the eukaryotic organelles of energy transformations, that is, mitochondria and chloroplasts, to represent these two major energy transformations. Keep in mind, though, that prokaryotes also perform these processes using specialized membrane regions rather than separate organelles. Notice how the products of photosynthesis are the reactants of cellular respiration, and how the products of cellular respiration are the reactants for photosynthesis. Also notice the flow of energy through the biosphere. Energy enters as light, and heat energy is produced every time an energy transformation takes place, in accordance with the second law of thermodynamics. And this figure right here, this is what keeps the whole biosphere running. Pretty cool, right?